So, I was first just going to complain about this disgusting eyesore up here, which looks like a bricklayer's nightmare. It looks like someone should be held responsible for it. If I was in charge of this, I would assume that the bricklayer's firm had been up to no good or had set about some very unreliable workers. But no, it's in fact modern art, if you want to call it that. But that's not what I'm going to talk to you about. You see, I stopped to complain about that, but then noticed this. Now what this is a calf with a picture of George Bernard Shaw on it. Now, George Bernard Shaw was not a very nice man. He was a Fabian who said in his own words there's a lot of people he'd like to kill. He spoke about eugenics. Eugenics being the idea of getting rid of people who aren't useful enough or providing enough to society, shall we say, when in reality it would be the sort of people like him.
I don't want to punish anybody, but there are an extraordinary number of people whom I want to kill.
Now, me personally, I don't want to see faces like that. Now, you notice as well, his name is not actually written. There's a quote here: there is no sincerer love than the love of food. But for some strange reason, they've not put his name there, because it's very easy to research just how wicked George Bernard Shaw was. But why is his face on there? Well, let's have a look. This is the LSE attached to it, the London School of Economics. Have a quick look from the camera. That's it. Come on, mate. Now, the London School of Economics is basically a liberal college or liberal university that's seen many a name through its doors. So civil servants, politicians, they've been to places like Eton or Cambridge or Oxford or the LSE, which will help provide them with plenty of, shall we say, left-leaning opinions on how to cope with many arguments that they might face whilst protecting these opinions. It's actually created as an alternative to radical Marxism, revolutionary thought. It's part of the long march through the institution, which is where Fabianism comes from. Maximus Fabian was facing Hannibal's army a long time ago. He didn't have the men to fight him in open conflict, so he instead attacked his food supply lines and so on. Thus, the idea of Fabianism came about, the sneaky tactics of doing something different than what you say on the front face of things. And that's where we get the idea of the long march through the institution. That's why the Fabian Society, because it was four Fabians who set up the London School of Economics, which has influenced politics not just in Britain but across the world. And one of them was George Bernard Shaw. Have a look down here. So, the eugenics lunatic who spoke about killing people helped found this. It's still in use today. So this is why, if you look at the early life of the Fabians, they had a turtle or tortoise as a picture, but the most ominous one they had, which gave away their ethos, was a wolf in sheep's clothing. And the most alarming thing about them isn't just their influence in education, but they helped found what you know today as today's Labour Party. They were present during the foundations of the Tory Party, and they existed before the modern politics that you know today was in full flow, which means that the sinister side of Fabianism had its voice. Not just its voice, it was protected. And as I was saying, this was an alternative to blatant radical Marxism. But what this is internationalism in education and politics at its finest. And I see shape the world. Now, what is the long march through the institution? Why does it apply to Fabianism? And why does the wolf in sheep's clothing apply to the long march through the institution so much? Because what it is they all tell you they're doing one thing whilst doing another. So to feminise society, to radicalise society into left-leaning opinions, it's been done slowly via industry, via film, via entertainment, and you don't notice it happen. As opposed to an outlandish revolutionary act where Parliament's taken and they just tell you that they're going to make you communists. It's very different. Thus, the Long March, which was the long-winded effort to make sure that we, as citizens of this nation and nations like ours, did not notice the change that was happening deliberately by, well, outside influence. Think for yourself.
I never know exactly how to make my opinion clear, because I object to all punishment whatsoever. I don't want to punish anybody. But there are an extraordinary number of people whom I want to kill. Not in any unkind or personal spirit, but it must be evident to all of you. You must all know half a dozen people at least, who are no use in this world, who are more trouble than they are worth. And I think it would be a good thing to make everybody come before a properly appointed board, just as he might come before the income tax commissioners, and say every 5 years or every 7 years, just put him there and say, sir or madam, now will you be kind enough to justify your existence? If you can't justify your existence, if you're not pulling your weight in the social vote, if you're not producing as much as you consume, or perhaps a little more, then clearly we cannot use the big organization of our society for the purpose of keeping you alive, because your life does not benefit us and it can't be of very much use.